Well guys, welcome back to Scott's Speed Shop. Jed here as always, and Dad's on the other side of his giant turbo diesel tractor he just had to have. And well, this week we're going to be doing updates on all sorts of projects, menageries, all that kind of stuff. Get you update on everything, because we got some stuff to talk about. Starting with, never trust a nice guy, or a guy who appears to be nice. This tractor, when we bought it, was complete, but the guy said it's got 100 hours on the rebuild. And there's a tag from Grindstaff, Red Bull Shop up in Kansas City, or Independence, Missouri. And it's a 67 model 190 XT turbo diesel, 90 something horsepower tractor, big tractor. And Dad got a killer deal on it. The killer deal is starting to show why. That engine, whether it is 100 hours or not, that engine was rebuilt in 2000, so it's 22 years old. And the noise it's been making, we actually pulled the head off and found out, let's see, third piston from the back was hitting the head, and it's got valve marks on it, and the piston actually moves up and down. It's sloppy, and we're hoping it's not the rod cap or rod bearings being worn out, because the crank's been turned 2020, so it's almost the end of its life. But this is what's kind of silly. Like, we love Alice Chalmers tractors, but you gotta take the whole freaking front suspension out to work to get the oil pan out. So Dad's working on getting that out, and we're gonna see what the carnage looks like. Hopefully it's good news, and then we'll go show you some car related content here in a minute. That's a big oil pan. There's a bolt in there. There are bolts in there. Why are there bolts in the oil pan? Look at all that glitter too, dude.
Let's see it.
Let's see. So the rod we're after, this engine's got 7 main bearings. Let's see, that guy's good. That guy's looser than crap.
Number 4 is the one.
This one's loose, but it's not as loose as that piston was feeling. Yeah, I think this is your, let's see. I think that's the one right there. You know, there's a damn good reason why I don't trust nobody when it comes to parts deal, especially a guy who claims he did a bunch of work for his church. Just go show you that even a guy who's a churchly man or godly man, can't trust him. Look at that. That's the bearing shell, hopefully. Dad's gonna pop that rod up. But yeah, there's the bearing shells.
How much left of that?
Yeah, it's pretty thin. How does that look? I'll have to get my mic on there, and I can feel that. That's
fuck the rod too.
That's junk. That's very junk. Rod cap. Yeah, that's got grooves cut deep in it.
Yeah, it's been spinning on both sides.
Yeah. There ain't a whole lot of bearing left on that. Well, thanks, dude in Missouri. You're an absolute piece of trash of the worst sort. Anyways, let's go look at some stuff that may not be as depressing. Okay, now we're back in the garage, and we've shown you the gruesome carnage in that 190 tractor. Let's show you some other neat stuff. So our little shaper we picked up, 75 years old, and a little rewiring of the motor, some fresh vibration-free belts, and look at that. This is one of those machines where it's just a lot of fun to watch work. Table's working good. I made a handle for it. I was missing that, and I wasn't going to pay 75 bucks for one on eBay. Those guys are gougers. So yeah, just got to get a vise for it now. So with that shown, of course, the little Atlas lathe, which actually, funny enough, is in the same catalog. I got this from my good friend Terry, who we actually got the van from. Look at that. There's my lathe. And this is dated January of 1947. This little brochure. Pretty freaking cool if you ask me. Okay, so we're going to start back here. The 215s I have. We'll be selling one probably. and eventually we might put one together. We'll sell them both. Those are both Oldsmobile 215 all aluminum engines. Buick nailhead back there, it still runs, just got to put it back on a stand if we ever want to hear it run. And speaking of small engines, my 340 is still at the machine shop taking its time, which is perfectly fine with me. And there's its W2 TTI headers that cost a fortune and raw steel, but what do you expect, TTI. There's a Hemi head gasket hanging up. Let's see, which we're actually going to need another one of those, and we'll get to that in a minute. The 241 high compression Johns pistons, we'll get to building that engine after a while. Oh, the Pro Stock. This is quickly becoming a channel favorite. I never expected the videos on this engine to get anywhere where they are. It's incredible, and I appreciate everybody who's watched them. We've got a lot of issues, but it runs still. Okay, it runs on both distributors. We haven't videoed it yet, but we did a little test when it was running. Spark plug, this coil wire from here to the coil is shooting electricity, and Dad said he could feel the energy through the wire, through his pliers when we were running it on dual plugs, and it sounds just like it does with the single plug firing, but works really good. However, all right, so we still have a rear main oil leak. It spews oil out the back horrendously, so that means pan off, engine on, it's upside down, replace those seals and figure out why it's leaking, where it's leaking from. Is it the pan gasket? Could be. More than likely it's the rear main. I don't know if I replaced the top seal or even put in a top seal. I'm pretty sure I did. I'd have to go back through and watch the videos, but it's blowing oil out the back like crazy. We can't have that. There's an issue with the dominators. Don't know what's going on. I've had these dominators apart about 3 different times, and after the engine's been run, the gas leaks out of the carburetors right into the cylinders, and when you crank the engine over, you can only watch the raw gas dump out of the headers. It's not good. So these things got to get taken apart one more time, and I'm going to thoroughly inspect the main bodies, make sure they're not cracked, make sure the metering blocks are doing their jobs, the floats and needles and seats are doing their job. They're not the issue. But that's all small fries. The big issue is I haven't checked the passenger side yet. It doesn't seem to be any issues. However, a porosity hole, an easy oversight, opened up on number 5, and I'll put a picture here. And what happens is after about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, after, well, it just sitting here with water, it'll actually do a little bead, and it will form up, and then it will drip down. And actually this header tube is rusty at the bottom, and when it's running, it's vaporizing the water, but it's also, because the exhaust is being scavenged out through the headers, it's actually sucking it out of the head. I don't think it's causing any issues, but that's got to get fixed. We can't have that. So unfortunately, this engine's coming back apart. The head's got to go back to advanced engine machine. Something that got overlooked, I don't know. I'm not blaming them. This could have been something that only would have shown up after the engine was heat cycled and got up to temperature. So we're going to get that fixed, and then we're going to put the engine back together, and we're going to fix a few things, a couple things I like to do differently. But that's the Pro Stock for you. So this thing will be torn down here after a bit, and I'll just show you. Here's our collector extensions, which I did a video showing these things with these baffles, and you'll see that video after a while. But as you can see, this one is all rusty. That is from this header, and this one's just got some surface on it, nothing bad, and that's from this header. So you can see the stark contrast. Water coming out, no water. Well, hopefully no water. So there's the Pro Stock for you. As far as Jezebel, okay, I am 200 miles in on my break-in. I just don't have the time to take this thing out and just drive it. With fuel prices being what they are, and I will go ahead and address this. No Name Nationals, I have every intention of going, but if this thing isn't ready, you know, fully clutch broken, all that stuff, I doubt I'll go. But here's to hoping we make it. That's the first time I've actually said anything of making a commitment to that. But it would be cool to go. It's just a long drive for us, and we don't typically make road trips like that. We're going to do our best. Motorcycles doing just fine. Carburetors, typical stuff. You know, all that's normal. let's go talk about some cars. So let's start off with, well, elephant in the room, El Von Duque. So we have been waiting for the heat to kind of die down, which it finally starts to feel like it is. So Von Duque, we're going to be working on the interior after a while. It'll be here soon. Dad's been driving and enjoying the crap out of his van. He loves this thing and he loves talking about it. So if you guys ever see Dad out in the open, just ask him about his van. Which, by the way, we did get a third seat in there. That's out of it's a 60-40 split bench out of a Chevy truck. Matches. I mean, those are vinyl. That's velour. Who cares? So we have auxiliary seating now. The satellite. I know I had big intentions on getting this thing fixed, but pro stock and everything else going on. This car sat for how many years? It can sit some more. I start this thing up every once in a while, make sure it's running good. So that's all that matters. It still runs. It's great. It ain't caught on fire yet, but I ain't driving it. So we'll get to work on this thing eventually. And for the 3 people who care about our tractor and dozer stuff, this will hopefully get done this year. The head's off, and we got the engine broke free. I need to crank it around some more, but I would like to get this thing going and get out to the farm and get it working. It's McCormick Deering International Harvester T20 crawler dozer. It is a crawler, but it's had a dozer conversion. Big old homemade blade setup. Freaking cool. We'll get that one going. This one, which we pulled out of a field, we did a whole video on it. It got about 10 views. It's yard art. There's nothing on this one that is salvageable besides the undercarriage, which we're going to keep for parts for that one, which is in much better shape. I know it doesn't look like it's in much better shape, but it is. The duster, there is nothing to be done on the duster until the 340 is done. I know I could probably go ahead and paint it, but yeah, pro stock, other things. Anna's truck, it's still here. It still runs good. Dad's car, covered up. It runs good still. 49 GMC project, that's probably about 20 years down the pipeline, probably. That's a huge project. Isn't that right, Dad? Yeah. Dad's probably depressed about his engine now in his tractor. Which, we got that rod out. It's junk. The bearings they're paper thin. It's about as bad as it can get. So hopefully we'll get that fixed for Dad. I don't want him to be all depressed. The yard dart. This thing just needs gas and driven. And then we'll eventually 4-speed swap this thing. Probably about the same time we do Dad's car. We'll probably do Dad's car first. Don't know. But I do miss the yard dart. But it's just sitting back here. Last time we had it running was when Tall John and Brian were here. But it would be cool to get back to work on this thing, because I do love this little car. And I would like to get this thing where I wanted it. I got paint for this thing, and I got interior parts for it, but you know, it's just finding time. Just one dude mostly. Dad on the weekends. Oh, by the way, the duster actually did donate its brand new Hoosier Pro Street tires to Jezebel, so the duster's rocking Jezebel's old Nitto drag radials, which actually look really cool on this thing. This thing needs like a 15 by 12, but nobody makes a 15 by 12 anymore, really. At least a cool one. But yeah, that's the old duster for you. Oh, it is a shame about the pro stock and Dad's new tractor. Sorry for anybody who has any interest in that 190. Just figured, you know, we're not going to cover that. We didn't figure it was going to be this bad. We really didn't. We thought, you know, we'd maybe swap a sleeve and a piston and we'd be good to go. No, it's a lot deeper than that, but that's what you run into when you trust people you don't know anything about. It's a shame. I don't know if the guy deliberately lied to us, but just in my experience of dealing with people, more than likely did. People kind of suck. And it's a shame because you do what I do, dealing with parts, and you deal with 3 bad apples out of the 100 good ones, and the 3 ruin it for you. I know I only showed 2, but there was 3 there. Oh, and I don't mean to make this update video long-winded, but I'm just trying to capture everything. Dad's carrying his war trophy. It's not really the war trophy we want, right, Dad?
Right side. I think I don't need that sleeve and piston kit.
I don't think you do. Those sleeves look great.
Babbitt, pour some Babbitt like you did in the old days.
No. We're beyond that.
Pour some lead.
So that's going to basically conclude your guys' little update video. I know we're not firing anything up or making a bunch of racket, but it's a little late for that. We are being somewhat courteous to our neighbor who is a little sound conscious. So Gary, if you see this, we are trying to be the best we can with this thing. That's why hence we spent, you know, $50 on the header extensions and then put the baffles in there. Mufflers were a little expensive. They're about $100 a piece, and I don't think there really is going to be a lot of change when you get that diameter muffler. Which, oh yeah. We did ditch the Myladin cover. This cover, which was on the engine, this green gasket is supposed to handle oil pressure, but it's been blowing out, so we went to actually a remote system with an Oberg filter. My buddy Billy recommended that, so that's those lines you see now. Made all that stuff, and those are working really good. And by the way, Dad did loan us this gauge, and we are rocking 100 psi oil pressure when it's cold. So that's why it broke the Jegs gauge, because it only reads to 100, and I don't think it really wants to read to 100. So, but that's gonna basically call it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little update. I hope you learned something. Hope I got some answers. Oh, I should answer this question: why this engine's not going in a car? Where do we start? 13-to-1 compression. Boom, instantly out. You got 90 chances of a water leak on those bolts. As you can see, all of them bolts. Why this engine ain't going in a car? There's so much material removed off this block, it's no longer that strong. You can't mount it with motor mounts, so it's got to be mounted with motor plates. Where else do we need to go? The cam, the valve springs that are on it with their loads, they got so much shelf life before they're no good, they got to get replaced. This is a full-blown 1971 spec race Hemi. This is Dick Landy, Sox and Martin, Herb McCandless. This is that style of engine, so you can't go drive this on the street. It's just not a great idea. This engine runs on 112 pretty comfortably, and you put it in a car, you got a lot of things that could go wrong, and also the car would go in would be a full-blown race car. And does it look like I need another car? Because that answer is no. And I definitely don't need a dedicated race car that I won't go to the drag strip with, because our closest track that I like is Mocan. That's 2.5 hours away. So no, the Pro Stock is not going into a car, and it's more about preserving this piece of history and letting people get close to it. This thing's in a car, you can't really appreciate it for what it really is. When it's on a stand, I know it's a shame to some people, but you can actually get up close to it and see the full glory of what is a 1971 era Pro Stock 426 Hemi, which, by the way, is actually 451 inches for the bean counters. It's offset ground stroker crank, chrome plated rod journals, blah 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 blah. Okay, got that answered for everybody. Hopefully they watched to this point. But always, guys, hope you enjoyed the update. Look forward to seeing the next one. So as always, take care, and
Got my head gasket and oil fan. Gotta build it now.
True.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You were waiting for that, weren't you, this entire time?